My not boyfriend said we were not a couple, so I broke his heart. We have been seeing each other for a year, and everything looked and seemed like we are a couple. He said he loved me and I him. He spends every weekend with me, and we have planned our first trip together, etc. Last weekend, he was in bed, and I made him pancakes because his birthday was on Tuesday. He was very happy about it and joked that I was spoiling him. I said that I wanted to spoil my man. He said, I am not your man with the same energy. He didn't seem awkward or embarrassed, just as calm with a smile on his stupid face. I didn't take it seriously and said, yeah, I know you are not my man. He was more serious now and said, no, really, I am not your boyfriend. I felt sick, but I tried to be calm and I asked what we are. He said, I don't know. Great FWB. I didn't say anything after that, and he ate his pancakes in silence. Later, he asked if we would do anything. I said that I was planning on cleaning and doing some paperwork. He left after an hour. I ran to the bathroom to be sick, and I probably cried for a solid 2 hours. I couldn't keep anything in my stomach for the rest of the day. He texted that evening thanking me for the breakfast in bed and that he thought I was amazing, but I didn't answer. So he called a few times. I didn't answer. Around 10 p.m., he rang my door. I just opened a jar and pretended I was sick with the flu and was going to bed. He offered to stay the night in case I needed help during the night, and I said no. I didn't answer him on Sunday or Monday, and I didn't wish him a happy birthday on Tuesday either, and I have just been keeping it short texts, finding sickness. He never brought up what he said once. Then yesterday he wrote that he missed me, and that he hadn't gone this long without talking to me since we met, and that he was going mad. He asked if we could at least have dinner. I said that I was very busy. He said, don't you miss me? I said that I was very tired because I was out all night with a guy last night. When I sent that last message saying I was exhausted because I had spent the night with another guy, my heart was racing. I was trembling, not from guilt because I hadn't done anything with anyone, but from anger at being made a fool. For the first time since that unbearable conversation at breakfast, I felt like I had regained some control. And it didn't take even 5 minutes. He saw it, typed, stopped, typed again, disappeared, came back. Anxiety took over my chest, but I didn't let it show. I put my phone aside and went to shower as if all of that wasn't corroding every part of my pride. When I came back, there was a response short. Seriously? I read it, ignored it. The game was mine now. 2 hours later, another message. You can do whatever you want. Just don't complain later. I smiled. He thought he was threatening me, but I knew that tone. It was jealousy disguised as arrogance. He always thought he was clever, irresistible, the prize. So convinced that no matter what he did, I would continue there, willing to be the woman who makes pancakes and settles for crumbs of affection. But not this time. At night, around 10:30, when the street was already silent and I was already lying down with my face buried in the pillow, I heard the doorbell. My heart raced. I knew it was him. No one else would show up like that unannounced at that hour. I let it ring, then a light knock on the door and another one. I got up slowly, without making noise, as if I were a thief in my own house. I peeked through the side window. It was him, leaning against the wall, arms crossed with that corner of the mouth smile, as if you were doing me a favor by being there. Pure arrogance. I didn't open. He grabbed his phone, vibrating. Open up. I just want to talk. You know this tantrum of yours won't last. Tantrum. He thought I was having a tantrum. I replied, you said you weren't my boyfriend. I'm just enjoying my freedom. The response came in seconds. Freedom you never wanted. You'll get tired of this little theater quickly. Call me when it passes. I read that and laughed out loud. A dry, almost nervous laugh. He still believed I would run after him, that I would beg, that he was the prize. But that night, the one who got tired was me. Tired of begging for crumbs of dignity. Tired of being called friend with benefits after a year of sharing every weekend. Tired of preparing surprises for someone who didn't even consider me a partner. He knocked again, this time harder. Are you going to keep pretending you're not home now? He shouted low but firm, his voice choked with anger. You weren't like this, you know. What kind of guy did you go out with yesterday? Huh? Was he good? Better than me. Silence. I didn't even expect that. He was actually jealous. The king of indifference, shaken. I almost felt vindicated there. But it still wasn't enough. I opened the window calmly and looked into his eyes. It's none of your business, I replied. You're not my boyfriend, remember? The expression on his face changed instantly. His smug confidence vanished, replaced first by surprise, then by pure anger. So you're really going to push me away, ignore me, and act like I'm just some random guy? Is that what you're doing? He snapped. That's exactly how you treated me for the past year, I answered. He took a slow step backward, let out a deep breath, stared at the ground for a second, then looked back at me with a fake smile stretched across his face. You'll get tired of this. One day you'll realize none of those guys will ever understand you the way I do. You'll miss what we had, and when that day comes, I'll still be here. Don't, I replied before closing the window. He drove away that night, but I knew it wasn't the end. His ego was far too big to accept rejection. His jealousy would only get worse, and so would his insecurity. For the first time, I felt like everything had shifted. He never wanted to call me his girlfriend, but now he was the one lying awake at night. As for me, I was only getting started. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding head and a heavy feeling in my chest. Everything that had happened still weighed on me. His words kept replaying over and over in my mind like an annoying buzz. You'll get tired. When you do, I'll be here. The way he talked about himself was so arrogant and disgusting that I felt ashamed just remembering I had ever wanted him, wanted his touch, wanted to be close to him. How had I let myself fall that far? I grabbed my phone and started deleting our old messages. There were hundreds of texts, memes, videos, and promises we had exchanged between laughter and late night conversations that I honestly believed meant something to him. Now I realized they were nothing more than entertainment while he waited for his next hookup. And somehow that still wasn't the worst part. Later that day, I met Natalie, my best friend, for coffee. I needed someone to listen because I couldn't keep everything bottled up anymore. She had always been the person who kept me grounded whenever my life fell apart. The second I walked in, she looked at me with concern, like she already knew I was hanging by a thread. Did he mess up again? She asked before I even had a chance to sit down. I told her everything, from reminding him that he wasn't my boyfriend to lying about seeing another guy just to make him feel what I had been feeling. When I finished, she stayed quiet for a long moment. She slowly stirred her coffee before taking a deep breath. There's something I've never told you, she finally said. I kept hoping he'd grow up and change, but now I know he never respected you. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Do you remember that night we all went to the bar with people from college? It was only a few months after you two started seeing each other. I nodded, already feeling cold all over. He came over and started talking to me. He complimented me and kept trying to keep the conversation going. At first, I thought he was just being friendly. But then you went to the restroom and he leaned over and asked if I had ever thought about hooking up with both of you at the same time. I froze completely. I couldn't move. My face burned and it felt like I couldn't breathe. He, what? I told him to go screw himself. I reminded him you were my best friend and told him he was an idiot. He just laughed. said he was joking. Then he started talking about how people should enjoy life without labels. That was the end of it. But after that night, I started paying closer attention. She shook her head. He flirted with other women too, always quietly, just enough that most people wouldn't notice. I felt terrible, but I didn't want to hurt you. I squeezed my eyes shut. How had I missed all of it? How could I have been so blind? Suddenly, every little thing made sense. The way he was always glued to his phone whenever we were together, the smiles he shared with random women, the new girls showing up on his Instagram every single week. And you're sure he. I started to ask, but she answered before I could finish. Yes, he's already hooked up with at least two girls from our class. One of them told me he said he wasn't committed to anybody and was just having fun. He was saying that while he spent every weekend with you. Disgust, humiliation, and disappointment crashed into me all at once. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something across the room. I wanted to disappear. He stood in my kitchen making me pancakes and telling me he loved me with the same mouth he used to flirt with my friends behind my back. And somehow he still believed I would come begging for him. He used me, he lied to me, he kept me around because I was safe and convenient. While he chased new girls, collected kisses, attention, and excitement, I was giving him everything I had, convinced the love between us was real. But it was never love. It was convenience. It was selfishness. It was nothing but his ego. I barely spoke for the rest of the afternoon. Natalie tried to keep talking, but all I could do was nod every now and then. Everything around me felt strangely slow. Even the sound of people laughing in the cafe got on my nerves. I wanted to stand up and yell so everyone could hear the truth. He never loved me. He lied to me. He's nothing but a fraud. Instead, I stayed silent. By the time I got home, my anger had become something much stronger. Determination. I wasn't going to waste another tear on him. I wasn't going to hide anymore. He had underestimated me from the very beginning. Now he was about to learn what happens when you play games with the wrong person. I spent the entire night sitting on my couch, unable to sleep, replaying every conversation, every excuse, every suspicious moment, and every lie I had ignored. Piece by piece, everything finally came together. When I looked at the whole picture, I could finally see him for who he really was, a complete scumbag. But this time I refused to be just another piece in his game. The revenge I had been quietly building inside myself was almost ready. Once I finally put it into motion, he was going to experience exactly what he had made me feel all along. He would learn what it was like to be treated as if he were disposable. That plan started taking shape that very night while I lay awake with dry tears on my face, staring at the ceiling. It wasn't fueled only by heartbreak anymore. It came from finally seeing the truth. After the last disappointment, everything became painfully clear. I didn't just want to disappear from his life. I wanted him to witness it. I wanted him to feel the same emptiness, the same discomfort, and the same rejection he had planted inside me while pretending to be someone he never really was. Strangely enough, the idea came to me because of the one person who had warned me about him from the beginning. Ethan. He was nothing like that guy. Ethan was polite, calm, and naturally funny without trying too hard. He had kind eyes, listened far more than he talked, and never felt the need to compete for attention or prove anything to anyone. The first time I met him was at a party where my almost boyfriend introduced us with that possessive attitude of his, almost like he was saying, "This is my girl, so don't even think about it." Ethan simply smiled, shook my hand, and treated me with complete respect. We didn't really talk until a few weeks later when we unexpectedly ran into each other at a college event. That was the night he said something I never forgot. You seem way too good for someone like him. Just be careful, okay? Back then, I brushed it off. I thought he was being unfair to his own friend. I assumed he was exaggerating. Now I finally understood. Ethan already knew exactly who he was. He had seen that side of him long before I ever did. And somehow, without either of us realizing it, Ethan was about to become part of my healing. It wasn't because I wanted to use someone else or play with another person's feelings. For the first time, I wanted to put myself first. And yes, if I was being honest, there was a little revenge mixed into it too. I wanted him to see that there were better men out there. I wanted him to realize there were people who actually knew how to love someone. Most of all, I wanted him to understand that the woman he had taken for granted was wanted by someone with more integrity than he would ever have. That night, I sent Ethan a simple direct message. Hey, I know this might sound a little strange, but you were right about him. I just wanted to thank you for being honest with me. Do you happen to have time this week? I'd really like to talk. About 30 minutes later, he replied, Of course, want to grab coffee tomorrow? The next day we met, I was nervous the whole way there because I didn't know what to expect. The moment I saw him, though, he greeted me with a warm hug and an easy smile that somehow made everything inside me feel quieter. We sat there talking for hours. I told him everything. I didn't hide anything, and I didn't try to make myself look like the victim. I simply told him the truth. He never interrupted me. He never minimized what I felt or made excuses. He just listened. When I finally finished, he let out a slow breath. I really did try to warn you, he said. He's been my friend for years, but he's always been like this. Charming, impulsive, and always chasing women. I've never seen him truly respect any relationship. But what he did to you was worse because he knew how much you loved him. I stayed quiet because every word was true. I had loved him with everything I had. But that part of my life was over. He lost me, I finally said. And I don't want to keep living around this pain anymore. I want to move on. I looked at him before continuing. And if you're willing, I'd like to do that with someone who actually sees me. Ethan looked surprised for a moment, but he didn't seem shocked. It was almost like part of him had expected that conversation to happen eventually. You deserve so much more than what he gave you, he said softly. Honestly, you deserve more than he'll ever understand. Then he smiled. And yes, I'm here. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I thought I had lost. Peace. But deep down, another thought crossed my mind. The moment he found out, and I knew he eventually would, he wasn't going to handle it well. Nothing hurts a narcissist more than watching the person he thought would always come back find happiness with someone else, especially someone he believes is beneath him. The funny thing was, Ethan wasn't beneath him at all. He was everything the other man had never been. Honest, genuine, reliable, present. That truth would hurt him far more than my silence ever could. I finally had my own voice again. I had choices. I had control over my own life. The man who believed I would always be waiting for him was about to learn that life keeps moving forward, and sometimes it moves in the most beautiful way possible. It didn't take very long before he found out. I expected it. Guys like him always seem to have people feeding them information, especially after they lose control over someone they thought would never leave. He never imagined, not even once, that I would be the one to change the rules. It happened on a Saturday night. Ethan and I were having dinner at a quiet little restaurant. It wasn't expensive or flashy, but it had a cozy atmosphere with dim lights and someone playing guitar in the background. We were laughing over something completely ridiculous while sharing dessert when my phone started vibrating in my pocket. One message, then another, then a third. Are you seriously with him? Have you completely lost your mind? We need to talk right now. I looked at the screen and locked my phone without replying. Ethan noticed the expression on my face and gently asked if everything was all right. I smiled, pretending nothing was wrong, and told him I would explain everything later. Then I put my phone away and gave him my full attention again, because that moment belonged to me. For the first time in a very long time, I chose myself. Let him wait, let him wonder, let him sit with the same uncertainty he had forced me to live with for months. It was the very least he deserved. The next day, he showed up at my door. He did not even bother texting first. He pounded on the doorbell like he had every right to demand my attention, as if our story had only been paused and he had decided it was time to start it again. I opened the door. He stood there with a hard expression, red eyes, and heavy breathing. He looked like a man who thought he still owned me. "Are you seeing Ethan?" he demanded, like I had done something wrong. "Good morning to you too," I said. "Stop avoiding it. Just answer me. Are you really with him?" I crossed my arms and looked him in the eye. "I am." "Why? Does it bother you?" He laughed, but it was more bitter than amused. Running his hand through his hair, he paced back and forth, trying to hold in his anger. "Seriously? My best friend? That's low, even for you." "Low," I shot back. "You're talking about what's low after everything you've done?" "It's different. I never got with any of your friends." "But you tried, didn't you?" I replied. He froze. His eyes widened before he quickly looked away. What are you talking about?" "Natalie, did you really think she would never tell me what happened at the bar? You asked if she'd be interested in hooking up with both of us, remember?" He went quiet. The silence said more than any excuse could. Finally, he muttered, "It was just a joke. You know, I say stupid things sometimes. I never meant it. It wasn't funny to me or to her, and even if you call it a joke, what kind of man says that after telling his girlfriend he loves her?" "I do love you," he said. "That's why I'm here. You're throwing everything away over an idiot who shouldn't even be around us?" I shook my head. "Funny. Now you suddenly talk about love. But when I made pancakes for your birthday, you told me you weren't my boyfriend. You said we were only friends with benefits. That wasn't a joke. You meant every word." He sighed. "I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted." "No, you knew exactly what you wanted. You just didn't want to give up the other girls. Now that you see me happy with someone who's a better man than you, suddenly you want to act like you have morals." He let out a frustrated breath. His confidence was gone, but he still tried to look offended. His eyes filled with tears, but it wasn't love. It was pride. He wasn't losing me, he was losing control. "He's only with you to get back at me," he said. "No, he's with me because he wants to be, because he respects me, listens to me, and values me. You never did." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. I was no longer the woman who waited for crumbs of affection. I had changed, and he could see it. "Leave," I said, "and use the walk home to think about everything you lost." He hesitated, looking around as if he could still find a reason to stay. There wasn't one. No excuses, no second chance, no future for us. I closed the door, and with it, I closed that chapter of my life. The following Monday, while I was still thinking about everything that had happened over the weekend, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Hey, I want to get you out of the house this week. Want to have dinner again? Nothing fancy, just you, me, and good pizza." I smiled. It was my first real smile in days. Not because I had won, but because I finally felt at peace. I replied, "Wednesday night is all yours." It was simple, honest, and exactly like him. On Wednesday, I got ready without overthinking it. jeans, a light blouse, and a little mascara. I wasn't trying to impress anyone, I just wanted to feel good. He picked me up, opened the car door with that old-fashioned gentleman style of his, and smiled. "I missed your laugh," he said. "And I miss someone who makes me laugh," I answered. We drove to a small pizzeria downtown. It was cozy, with old wooden tables, funny pictures on the walls, and a waiter who seemed to know Ethan well. "The usual?" the waiter asked with a grin. Ethan smiled. "Not tonight. I've got special company." We spent the evening talking about everything: work, music, embarrassing teenage stories, and old movies that hardly anyone watches anymore, but we both still loved. I laughed and caught myself playing with my hair, crossing and uncrossing my legs without even realizing it. My whole body seemed to react to how easy and peaceful the night felt. It was nothing like the tense conversations and awkward silence I had gotten used to. Around him, I could finally be myself without fear. After we finished the pizza, we took a slow walk down the street, neither of us wanting the evening to end. He asked if I was doing okay after everything that happened with his former friend, and I answered honestly, "Not completely. I'm still putting myself back together, little by little. But you've helped more than you know." He smiled, but this one felt different. It was softer, more sincere. "I never wanted to interfere or push you into anything," he said. "But ever since that party where he treated you like you were just another girl, I knew you deserved better." I looked at him and smiled. "And do you think you deserve me?" He stopped walking and looked straight at me for a few seconds. "I don't know if I deserve you," he admitted, "but I admire you. I respect you. And I really want the chance to know the real you, not the version he made everyone believe." My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected words like that. "Then get to know me," I replied. My voice sounded steadier than I expected. We stood there on the sidewalk, looking at each other while everything around us seemed to disappear. Slowly, he leaned closer, silently asking if he could kiss me. I closed my eyes and let him. It wasn't rushed or careless, it was gentle, patient, and full of respect. That kiss said more than words ever could. It felt like a promise that I would never have to question where I stood again. For the first time in a long while, I believed I deserved that kind of love. After all the lies, mind games, and disappointment, I deserved someone who made life feel lighter. If my ex found out and got angry, that was no longer my problem. The hurt he caused me didn't control my life anymore. Now I had someone who looked at me with honesty, without doubt, like I was exactly who he wanted. A few weeks after that kiss, my life finally felt balanced again. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. I woke up without waiting for messages that never came or worrying about saying the wrong thing. Ethan never played games. He was simply there, honest and consistent. After spending a year feeling like someone's backup plan, that meant everything to me. We started spending more time together: movies, coffee, long walks, and quiet nights cooking at home. He understood my silence without forcing me to explain it. He listened, made me laugh, and made me feel important. Of course, my ex couldn't handle it. His ego wouldn't let him. 3 weeks later, he showed up outside my apartment building without warning. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes were red, but his arrogance hadn't gone anywhere. "You've become a slut," he spat the second he saw me, without even saying hello. The insult hit me, but instead of hurting me, it almost made me laugh. "Only in your mind," I answered, folding my arms. "Is that what you call a woman who refuses to come running every time you snap your fingers? A woman who stops making pancakes for a guy who said she wasn't even his girlfriend?" He started pacing like an angry animal. "You're with Ethan, my best friend. You actually think that's okay." What I think, I replied, stepping closer, is that you were never my boyfriend. Remember, you were the one who kept saying we were just friends with benefits, no labels. Just fun. So I stopped being nothing to you and found someone who wanted me to be everything. He glared at me, but I could tell his anger was really aimed at himself. Do you know the difference between you and him? I continued. You wanted me when it was convenient. He chose me. You used me to feed your ego. He respects me, listens to me, and values me. You left me crying at night. He gives me a reason to smile before I go to sleep. He forced a laugh. He's only using you to get back at me. I shook my head. He barely talks about you. You're the past. You're a mistake I've already moved on from. The only person still obsessed is you. His fists tightened, but I wasn't scared anymore. You were never a real man to me, I said. You were just a spoiled boy who collected women like trophies. Now you're falling apart because one of those trophies walked away. You really think he'll love you forever? He shouted. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, I answered. But if it ever ends, it'll end with respect and honesty, not lies, cheating, and cowardice. For the first time, he had absolutely nothing to say. The confident mask he'd always hidden behind was finally starting to crack. Then I looked him in the eyes and delivered the final blow. I was everything you always claimed you wanted. I was loyal, present, caring, and completely devoted to you. But you were so busy trying to act like you needed your freedom that you threw away someone who only wanted to love you. And the worst part, you didn't lose me to some stranger. You lost me to someone who saw exactly who you were and still chose me. He dropped his eyes, swallowed hard, and turned around. He walked away without another word. That was the moment I knew I was finally free. This time, he was the one who would lie awake at night. He would be the one checking his phone and never seeing my name. He would be the one remembering my touch, my laugh, and the way I cared for him, knowing he would never have any of it again. Natalie wanted nothing to do with him after that. She slowly cut ties with the people who kept making excuses for him, saying he simply didn't know how to love. She always said, people who don't know how to love can learn, people who don't want to love never will. And she knew he never wanted to. Ethan, on the other hand, stayed. Not because I needed someone to replace him, but because he saw every broken piece of me and never walked away. He reminded me that love isn't supposed to be loud, confusing, or painful. Love is showing up, love is peace. As for me, I didn't become bitter or cold. I just stopped accepting the bare minimum disguised as love. I learned that if someone refuses to claim you, they don't deserve you. If someone makes you feel small after you've given them everything, they're not a real man, they're just a boy pretending to be one. Most importantly, I learned that love is never something you beg for. You leave with your dignity, hold your head high, and let life take care of the rest. A few months passed after that final conversation, and the storm in my life was finally over. The man who once insisted he wasn't my boyfriend, who laughed at my loyalty and took my love for granted, became nothing more than a memory. Every now and then, I heard from mutual friends that he still talked about me, like our story wasn't really over. They said he had become quieter, more bitter, and completely lost. Honestly, it didn't matter anymore because I was finally happy. Ethan and I made our relationship official without any pressure or drama. No big announcement, no social media posts. It happened one afternoon after coffee and a walk through the park. He held my hand, looked into my eyes, and said, I know you've been through a relationship where love always came with doubt. I want you to have certainty instead. If you're ready to love again, I'm here. Not as a reward, but as someone who wants to build a future with you. I smiled and said, yes. I have never regretted that answer. These days, our life is peaceful. We laugh together, spend hours talking, and never run out of reasons to kiss each other. Sometimes he makes me pancakes, and every single time I'm reminded how good it feels to be with someone who isn't afraid to say, I love you, and prove it every day. The pain from the past is still there, but now it's only a scar. It doesn't hurt anymore. It only reminds me how much I've grown, how much I deserve, and how long I accepted crumbs without realizing there was a full table waiting for me with the right person. Ethan was never part of my revenge. He became my healing. He was the beautiful surprise that came after so much disappointment, the light that finally followed all the darkness. And me. I was the woman he refused to claim, the woman he insisted wasn't his girlfriend, the woman he thought would keep begging for attention. Today, I'm the official girlfriend of his best friend, the woman who proudly walks beside the man she loves without hiding, the woman he's proud to introduce, not as a friend, but as the woman he chose. If this experience taught me anything, it's this. If someone refuses to claim you, they don't deserve you. If they underestimate your worth, they'll lose you. And when someone truly knows your value, they protect your heart, love you completely, and choose you every single day.